Hello, I'm Phoebe Boucher, managing editor of Raven Chronicles Press. Raven is a Northwest literary organization that has been around since 1991. This is the first of a years-long series called Raven Chronicles Banned Books Project. Starting today, Raven will be posting on our YouTube channel podcasts of writers reading excerpts from banned books that are meaningful to them. I'd like to introduce you to our 2025 student intern, Sophie. I would say hi, Sophie. Avery,
Hello.
and she will be working with us on this project this summer. She studies English and American history at Smith College, originally from Spokane, Washington. She's interested in navigating the cultural and environmental diversity embedded in Pacific Northwest writing. Today we have Sandy Yannone, is that right?
You
Yannone.
know, but I respond to all iterations.
Okay. That's what I got off the internet. He's the poet laureate of Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and retired faculty writing center director at the Evergreen State College, which is in Washington State. Sandra is the author of The Glass Studio from 2024 and Boats for Women 2019, both from Salmon Poetry Press in Ireland. In March 2020, right at the start of the pandemic, she co-founded the fabulous and international online reading series, Cultivating Voices, Live Poetry. Sandra, take it over.
Thank you so much, Phoebe and Sophie. I'm so honored to be in my hometown library, which is the site of where all banned books now live, and fantastic to be with Raven Chronicles, a press and publication that I have revered for many, many years. Ever since 1987 was the very first time I saw a copy of it when I first moved to Seattle. But now I'm out here in Old Saybrook, Connecticut, and I'm joining you from our public library, Acton Public Library in Old Saybrook. And that's the lighthouse in our town, and I love kind of showcasing our, our beautiful town. Well, now I have the pleasure of showcasing an incredibly important and also stunningly beautiful book. One of my favorite books in all of the English language, The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas by Gertrude Stein. The reason the book is so critical to me is it has not so much to do with the fact that it was banned, although that certainly came into play as a significant feature of it, but it is the edifice of the book itself that Gertrude would throw her voice to create the autobiography of her partner, her lover, Alice B. Toklas, throughout, and the story of Alice telling Gertrude's life, written by Gertrude, of course. So Gertrude writing her own life story, but choosing to call it the autobiography of Alice B. Toklas and having it from Alice's perspective. The other reason the book is so, so important is because it really showcases an incredibly significant period in literary history and also world history, being the outbreak of World War One is incredibly significant in this book, and Alice and Gertrude's participation in how they really managed to be in Paris as expatriates and continued to work toward creating literary culture really wherever they went. And the cast of characters is immense, of the people that Gertrude and Alice hosted and influenced: painters, writers, raconteurs, all kinds of people came through their salon on the Rue de Fleurs. And I wanted to just read some of the Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. Oh, I should also say, I first read this book when I was in graduate school at the University of Nebraska in the mid-90s. And I marveled at the conceit of the book, and I marveled at the history of the book. And I came out as lesbian during that time. So then I marveled about this as a major, lesbian text, lesbian literature text. I'm going to begin with the section that is chapter 4, Gertrude Stein before she came to Paris. And the artifice of this is that this is in the voice of Alice B. Toklas, and she always refers to Gertrude often as Gertrude Stein. So you'll be hearing that. And yes, so this is Gertrude Stein before she came to Paris. And then we will move to Paris in chapter 5. I'm excerpting, so no worries. Once more I have come to Paris, and now I am one of the habitués of the Rue de Flores. Gertrude Stein was writing The Making of Americans, and she had just commenced correcting the proofs of 3 lives. I helped her correct them. Gertrude Stein was born in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, as I am an ardent Californian, and as she spent her youth there, I have often begged her to be born in California, but she has always remained firmly born in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. She left it when she was 6 months old and has never seen it again, and now its longer existence being all of it Pittsburgh. She used, however, to delight in being born in Allegheny, Pennsylvania, when during the war, in connection with war work, we used to have papers made out, and they always immediately wanted to know one's birthplace. She used to say if she had been really born in California, as I wanted her to have been, she would never have had the pleasure of seeing the various French officials try to write Allegheny, Pennsylvania. When I first knew Gertrude Stein in Paris, I was surprised never to see a French book on her table. Although there were always plenty of English ones, there were even no French newspapers. But do you never read French? I, as well as many other people, asked her. No, she replied. You see, I feel with my eyes, and it does not make any difference to me what language I hear. I don't hear a language. I hear tones of voice and rhythms, but with my ears, I see the words and sentences, and there is for me only one language, and that is English. One of the things that I have liked all these years is to be surrounded by people who know no English. It has left me more intensely alone with my eyes and my English. I do not know if it would have been possible to have English be so all in all to me otherwise. And they, none of them, could read a word I wrote. Most of them did not even know that I did write. No, I like living with so very many people and being all alone with English and myself. And so life in Paris began. And as all roads lead to Paris, all of us are now there. And I can begin to tell what happened when I was of it. When I first came to Paris, a friend and myself stayed in a little hotel in the Boulevard Saint-Michel. Then we took a small apartment in the Rue de Notre-Dame des Champs, and then my friend went back to California, and I joined Gertrude Stein in the Rue de Flores. I had been at the Rue de Flores every Saturday evening, and I was there a great deal before. I helped Gertrude Stein with the proofs of 3 lives, and then I began to typewrite the making of Americans. The little badly made French portable was not strong enough to type this big book, and so we bought a large and imposing Smith Premier, which at first looked very much out of place in the atelier, but soon we were all used to it, and it remained until I had an American portable, in short, until after the war. As I said, Fernand was the first wife of a genius I was to sit with. The geniuses came and talked to Gertrude Stein, and the wives sat with me. How they unroll an endless vista through the years. I began with Fernand, and then there were Madame Matisse and Marcel Braque and Josette Gris and Eve Picasso and Bridget Gibb and Marjorie Gibb and Hadley and Pauline Hemingway and Mrs. Sherwood Anderson and Mrs. Bravig Emb and Mrs. Ford Maddox Ford and endless others, geniuses, near geniuses, and might be geniuses, all having wives. And I have sat and talked with them all the wives. And later on, well, later on too, I have sat and talked with all. But I began with Ferdinand. It was in these days that Mildred Aldrich was preparing to retire to the hilltop on the Marne. She too was not unhappy, but rather sad. She wanted us often in those spring evenings to take a cab and have what she called our last ride together. She more often than ever dropped her house key all the way down the center of the stairway while she called good night to us from the top story of the apartment house on the Rue Boissonade. We often went out to the country with her to see her house. Finally, she moved in. We went out and spent the day with her. Mildred was not unhappy, but she was very sad. My curtains are all up, my books in order, everything is clean. And what shall I do now? Said Mildred. I told her that when I was a little girl, my mother said that I always used to say, "What shall I do now?" which was only varied by, "Now what shall I do?" Mildred said that the worst of it was that we were going to London and that she would not see us all summer. We assured her that we would only stay away a month. In fact, we had return tickets, and so we had to, and as soon as we got home, we would go out to see her. Anyway, she was happy that at least Gertrude Stein was going to have a publisher who would publish her books. But look out for John Lane, he is a fox, she said, as we kissed her and left. Helene was leaving 27 Rue de Fleurs because her husband, having recently been promised to be foreman in his workshop, he insisted that she must not work any longer, but must stay at home. In short, in this spring and early summer of 1914, the old life was over. Well, there are some excerpts from Gertrude Stein's The Autobiography of Alice B. Toklas. And as you could see, there was quite a parade of people that Alice B. Toklas and Gertrude Stein really cultivated an impressive group of artists, and on the cusp of World War I, and how they would be entering World War I, and the work that they would do as women in the war is its own impressive story.
Didn't she drive an ambulance?
Yes, she drove an ambulance. Yeah, they drove an ambulance. And I really loved ending on this part with, them being on that cusp of war Because I was really thinking how much, we in these times are on the cusp of such difficult times. We're in them. And what it's like to write from a place where you are looking back at knowing that you were on the cusp of something significant that would change your life forever. And that's certainly true of Gertrude Stein and Alice B. Toklas.
Yes. I loved hearing the cadence of her writing. It's been a while that I've read Stein, but thank you very much for sharing that. And our very first book, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Phoebe and Sophie. And let's read all the banned books that we can.
Yeah.